What's happening, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam, this is Vancity Audi, and we're back at Racing Greed with the B9 S4, but this time we have the TTE710 hybrid turbo from the turbo engineers. We're utilizing stage 3 software from Integrated Engineering. We've paired that with their TCU file as well. It's also stage 3 software, and today we're gonna see how much power we can make on pump gas. I have not upgraded any of the fueling on this car. If you guys checked out my last video, we showed the install of the vehicle, my first data log, and holy hell does this thing pull way differently than a stock turbo. We're gonna see how much power we can make today, first on 91 octane and then on 93 octane. Now I'm not gonna be changing the fuel in the car though. I'm sitting at an E10 blend. So for us in Vancouver, Canada, that is Chevron 94 blended with an additional 10% of ethanol, that's E100 blended into 94 octane fuel to achieve the best fuel that I can while using pump gas. Now a lot of my videos previous to this, I always stress how you gotta pay attention to those ethanol contents because you can get more power out of your car sometimes on a pump gas tune while using a higher ethanol blend. I contacted Integrated Engineering before I did any of this because I really wanted to make sure when I data logged the vehicle, I could see that my high pressure fuel pump was maxed right out at E10. It wasn't obviously maxed right out, I shouldn't say that. It was at like 95% duty cycle. I don't want to get any higher than that. So they confirmed with me E10, that is the highest you want to run on these files. So I'm using the same fuel on both of these runs. One will be for 91 octane, that's what they offer, stage 3 91 octane, stage 3 93 octane. And then they also offer a 104 octane file, but to get that type of race gas around here is insanely expensive. So I apologize ahead of time, I will not ever be testing that on the dyno. It's way too much money. So what I'll do is I'll quickly go over the parts that I'm using on my car and then we'll get to these dyno runs. As for the hardware, we are using the TTE710 hybrid turbo from the turbo engineers. That leads into the Integrated Engineering downpipe, which then leads into the Integrated Engineering mid pipes. I know those are hard to see down there. I'm using a CTS turbo charge pipe, IE turbo inlet, IE air intake, as well as an IE intercooler. Now you know the software and you know the hardware I'm using, but what about those ambient conditions? It is the warmest that I've ever dyno tested this car. It is the highest density altitude that I've ever had while dyno testing this car. I know I'll make a bunch more power, but maybe not quite as much if the conditions were cooler. I think right now it's about 26 degrees Celsius. I apologize, Americans, for not knowing exactly what that is, and we're sitting at about 1700 DA already. It's a hot one out here, guys. I'm sweating like a pig already. I needed to remind you all, these are Mustang numbers. This is not a dyno jet calibration. Mustang dyno uncorrected numbers. Here we go. Here's the graph and the results of our first runs using the TTE710 stage 3 with 91 tuning. 404 wheel horsepower, 410 foot-pounds of torque. We lost a ton of torque versus what I was able to get with that stock turbo where we were way up over here. I'll do a comparison at the end of this video. Then the torque does carry nice and smooth all the way to the end, whereas the other turbo starts to drop off much sooner. As for the horsepower, it grows and grows and grows all the way up to, what is that? About 6,800 RPM. It did not do that on the stock turbo. It started falling off way back here. So I'll be interested to see how much more power we can make on the 93 octane tune now. Time for the 93 octane results versus the 91 octane results. We've gained another 28 wheel horsepower and another 22 foot-pounds of torque just from a tune change, 93 to 91. 432, both for horsepower and for torque at the wheels. You could see a consistent gain throughout the entire pull in every shape and form. So now that we have those numbers, it's time to compare them to what we were able to do with the stock turbo. My second and last comparison of the day will be what we accomplished with pump gas on a stock turbo versus what we accomplished today. That's nearly 80 wheel horsepower more from the turbo. That is pretty incredible. Now these are with a stage 1 93 octane tune, but as I've shown in the videos, they're almost identical between the stage 1 and stage 2. Check that out, guys. That is extremely impressive. Now again, we do make more torque down low with a stock turbo, even on pump gas. That's about 3,000 RPM, 3,200 RPM, we see that. But in terms of power and torque with the TTE710, from roughly, where is that? About 4,400 RPM upwards, everything is significantly better with this TTE710. Gobs more torque, gobs more horsepower, all the way up top to that 7,000 RPM red line using pump gas, but with a TTE710. Here's the graph I've been waiting for, guys. Stock turbo versus TTE710, 91 octane and then 93 octane. This was the best run, the final run, stage 2 E85. Look at those torque figures. We lost a significant amount of torque dropping down to pump gas from E85 all the way up here. Look at that. It's as low as like 2,500 RPM on the stock turbo. Just insane amounts of torque down low, but then it plummets up top. Whereas on pump gas with the TTE710, you're waiting until 3,600 RPM before you have the full amount of torque you can get. But in terms of horsepower, there is no comparison. You peak, I think it's about 5,500 RPM with a stock turbo, and then you just die. Whereas this TTE710 just climbs and climbs and climbs, looking really strong and really healthy on this pump gas tune. It's gonna be even crazier on ethanol. So we're finishing off today making 432 wheel horsepower and 432 foot-pounds of torque on this all-wheel drive Mustang dyno, showing uncorrected numbers. Well, that wraps up another successful dyno session here at Racing Greed. Thank you so much to the guys for their time. 432 wheel horsepower, 432 foot-pounds of torque, utilizing this TTE710 hybrid turbo from the turbo engineers using Integrated Engineering's Stage 3 93 octane tune. Wow, the potential that lies within that turbo. Ooh, I'm only on pump gas. We haven't upgraded any of the fueling in this car, and I'm already making that kind of jam. Now keep in mind, this is an all-wheel drive Mustang dyno. I've shown this in the past and I'll continue to show it to other people. People buy tunes based off of what they see on charts, on people demonstrating how much power they make. And there's a lot of happy dynos out there. Some dyno comms, some dyno jets, read much, much higher than this dyno. But the point of this is not to show the peak output. I do that on the track. I show that with trap speed, I show that with my ETs, but that's how I judge how fast my car is, not what I make on a dyno. But the gains that we saw today were sufficient to say I'm making more jam. And you can see on the graph the power curve that I have. When I race that top part of the power band, I think it's about 5,400 RPM, maybe a little lower, all the way to 7,000 RPM now. I am making significantly more power with this TTE710. So the next time out, possibly some performance testing on the back roads of Mexico, possibly a trip back out to the drag strip to see what it can do in the quarter mile on a prep surface. You guys are gonna have to wait and find out. Thank you so much to everyone for watching, and until next time, take care.